Chapter 7 The Consolation 13th day of the 3rd month, 697th year. Since Bran and his sons had found the water source, no one had returned to the hills. Those with the freedom to see if the water could be transported were from wealthier families, and a small group had been prepared to travel. However, they had been persuaded not to go. Everyone knew about what had happened to Bran, and the common plea of "it's too dangerous" had been enough to stop the exhibition. The poorer would have gladly gone, their need outweighing their fear, but they were restricted by poverty. Dragatu had watched the attempt to go and wanted to help, but didn't know how. If he could go there and hunt more challenging beasts, he could also think about how to get the water to the nation. However, he couldn't do anything until he was healed. Due to impatient outbursts, the strap to support Dragatu's broken arm had been painfully replaced several times. He tried to distract himself when resting by thinking, planning, and writing about plans to adventure to the hills. As time rolled by, he couldn't let his arm hold him back any longer, and he removed the strap completely. He tested the arm, clenching his hand and twisting his arm. The pain was still there, but it was minimal, and as he continued to exercise, it ebbed away. Now he was more or less healed. It was time to talk about his plan with Helaena. Approaching his mother, he told her of his plan and his desire to return to the place of their nightmares. His request nearly broke her heart. Finally and reluctantly, Helaena accepted his promises that he would be cautious. She tried to convince him to take seasoned hunters, but he refused, saying he would not put anyone else at risk. The loss of his friends was still fresh in his mind. His first visit was an anxious time for all. With every step closer to the hills, his youthful confidence had faded, and to his relief he hadn't seen the wolf, having stayed far away from the northern part where they had first heard it. He had pitched his tent at the water source, the one entrance giving him protection. When he wasn't hunting, he tried to think of a way to transport the water back home, but he couldn't. Eventually, he had to put it to the back of his mind and hope that one day an idea would come to him. After more than a month, he returned and told stories to all those who would listen. And so the cycle continued. A year went by, and Dragatu repeated his trip several times, enjoying the difficulties of hunting wilder animals like jaguar, leopards, and aggressive species of bear, as well as the ordinary, yet still ferocious wolves. When he was home, he often reminded those in his neighborhood and surrounding areas of the water source, hoping someone would think of how to use it to help the people, but no one did. At the same time, Dragatu continued to strengthen his body and became a formidable figure. He kept his hair short and didn't shave the light growth on his face, loving the reminder that he looked like Brannon. At times, he saw pain in his mother's eyes because of the similarity, but that couldn't be helped. To him it was a thing of pride, helping him to remember his promises he made. Eunyalus grew taller than his brothers. He was thin, like a sunflower, and he let his straight blonde hair grow long. Where he was slim, Fina was plump and small, regaining his lost weight. One day, as Dragatu sat in the courtyard, salting meat from a deer he had killed in the forest to the west, Eunyalus came to speak to him. "Are you going to the hills soon?" Dragatu looked up. Maybe in a month or so. I think I'm going to spend some time by the ore pits first." Eunyalus, never the one for subtleties, made his intentions clear. "I have been working on a project for a long time, and I would like to take a trip to the north to look at the water source again. Can you take me?" "No," Dragatu said, shaking his head. "It's too dangerous for you," he thought. "I doubt Mother would let you go," he continued. "She still hates that I go." "The project is really important, Dragatu," Eunyalus continued. "The population continues to grow, and yet the water gets less and less. We need both sources of water. I have designed a way to transport the water across the desert, but I cannot be sure if it's possible until I have a look at it again. It is very important." Could this be the idea I've been waiting for? Dragatu wondered. If Eunyalus has a way to solve the struggle, it would be worth the risk. We have to try, so Father's death wasn't in vain. "Okay," he said, letting his desire to honor Brannon persuade him. "We'll take a trip, but you must do everything I say. Mother would never forgive me if I let anything happen to you." He rubbed his chin. "Assuming she lets you, but we will try. I will do anything you need me to. When can we leave?" Dragatu looked at him surprised. It was unlike Eunyalus to be impatient. 3 days at the earliest, Drugatu said, running it through his mind and changing his plans. We'll need to get organised first thing tomorrow. We'll speak to Mother, and if it goes well, I'll get a list of things you'll need. Eunyalus nodded and walked towards the house. Halfway, he stopped and turned. Thanks, Drugatu, he said casually, and then left. 14th day of the 3rd month, 697th year. Once again, Drugatu did everything he could to convince and reassure Yelana. It wasn't until Eunyalus explained his plan, how it was going to help the people, and that he needed to honour Brandon, that she finally agreed to let him go. First day of the 4th month, 697th year. Drugatu knew the best course to take, which made the journey easier than Eunyalus remembered. Conversation was revolved around the project, and as they walked, Drugatu listened intently to Eunyalus. The project begins by building a large screw-like mechanism that sits inside a cylinder. It will be built with one end in the water on a steep incline, and it will have a wind catcher built high over it. The wind catcher will be connected to it and turn the screw, and water will work its way up the cylinder. As he spoke, he moved his arms and hands and twirled his fingers enthusiastically. The wood will be treated by Ilona sap, so it is waterproof and doesn't rot. At the other end of the cylinder, which will be high in the air, there will be a wooden channel on a very gentle decline. This will cling to the side of the valley until the decline eventually meets the floor at the south end. A pool will be made to gather the water, and this will be before the hills become too steep. Coming out of the pool, there will be more cylinders with screw mechanisms inside. These will be powered by smaller wind catchers that will also turn the screws. There will be a lot of these pools and cylinders, each going up the side of the hill to take the water to the top. After this, there will be a large pool made at the top, and channels zigzagging down the southern side of the hill to yet another pool at the bottom on the desert side. More channels will be built on top of 2 upside-down V-legs, which will go over the pool and have holes in the parts above the pool to drop some water into it. Lastly, these aqueduct channels will continue across the desert, reaching the nation to replenish the reservoir. With this description over, Drugatu realized 2 things. Firstly, Eunyalus was far more intelligent than he had realized, and secondly, that he hadn't only underestimated his brother, but he had underestimated the size of the project. The people had attempted nothing like this, and he wondered how they were going to get so many to help. He confronted Eunyalus about this. "It's the one thing I don't really know how to calculate," Eunyalus confessed. "People are so unpredictable. I'm struggling to think of how many people we will need. This may come to surprise you, but I'm not the best with people." "No surprise at all," Drugatu said in a light-hearted tone, stifling a laugh as his brother regarded him with light curiosity. When the moment passed, Eunyalus continued. I need you for more than this trip, Drugatu. You know people, and when you do things, your friends follow. You know how to lead. I think you can work out how many people it would take." He paused. "What is it?" Drugatu asked. "And I think you could lead all the people in this project." Drugatu took a few moments to digest what Eunyalus had said. He liked the thought of leading the people, but would the people take him seriously? They were only 15 years old. "There's a lot to think about, Eunyalus," he replied. "What you have planned is incredible. I believe you if you think we can do this. The people might not listen." "People will listen to you, Drugatu. It was you who got us safely home when we lost Father. It was you who killed the Pride leader. You are well known. We all are. Leon spends his time amongst the poorer people, and they love him for his kindness. I'm known amongst the farmers for helping with the animals and helping them with their farming. Even if they haven't met us, most of the people know who we are. They knew of our father and all he did to try and help the people. They will listen to you, and when we show them my plans, they will see it's possible. You really believe we can do this, don't you?" Eunyalus' voice shrank to a whisper. "I have to. Father died because we went to find the water. If we don't find a way to get the water, it's dishonoring him." "I understand," Drugatu said, seeing a new side to Eunyalus. "Okay, we'll try. There's a lot to do before we tell people. How are we going to pay people for the work? This project will take months." He scratched his head as he talked. "I could probably get some friends and ask people who live around us to volunteer. but that wouldn't be nearly enough. We would have to have help from the poorer people, but they would need a lot of food and supplies, even before we begin the project. I don't know the answer, Unitas admitted. We will figure it out. We have to. It's another reason I want your help. If anyone can figure this out and get people to help, you can. Thanks, Dragati said, and blushed. I'll give it more thought. We'll do this for the people, for Father, and for the Creator. Second day, the 4th month, 697th year. They reached the water source the next day and camped by it, facing westward towards the vast body. A few small plants and weeds grew on the ground, which stretched from the canyon behind them for about 100 meters. It was like an untouched secret that no other animal knew about. Unila studied one of the small plants, and Dragatu sat and looked out thoughtfully across the water. It was a clear day, and he guessed the far end was about a kilometer away. He scanned along the wall to his right, where rain would run down to replenish the lake, and marked where the sides began to incline back, the rock below plunging vertically into the water. Having surveyed the whole wall, he chatted casually to Unilas. They spoke quietly, reminiscing how different it felt to be sitting in a place so synonymous with their father's death, and yet feeling peaceful and calm was strange. Eventually, Unilas took out some parchment, on which he made more drawings and calculations. Dragati decided to go scout the area and hunt for food. Once they were both happy with the plans Unilas had made, they spent a few days relaxing. They enjoyed the open space on the valley floor and took advantage of the breakaway. It didn't last, and the novelty wore off, leaving them wanting to see their friends and family, and most importantly, to organize the project. On the journey back, Unilas told Dragatu how the project should be constructed. I think it will be done in 3 stages. First, the large cylinder, screw, wind catcher, and channels. Then the smaller cylinder, screws, wind catchers, the pool on top of the hill, and the channels. And lastly, the building of the channels across the desert. That does break it up nicely, Dragatu replied. But none of this will happen unless we have a way to But none of this will happen unless we have people to work on this project. I have an idea how many people we'll need, but the question of pay still remains. He kicked at the sand. This project will take a lot of hard work. Then, on top of that, we have to compensate people for leaving behind their families and normal trades. The amount of water we'll need will be incredible. Food and transporting everything across the desert should be manageable, but the water is the issue, as it always is. He sighed, stopped walking, and began to think. I have it, he suddenly exclaimed and laughed. The water. It's so simple. We can pay them in water. We can compensate the poorer workers with it. They can also take an advance from the reservoir. They will be healthier and can use leftover water to trade for things they need for the journey. Then, when we return, they can be given priority of water. This will motivate many to come and help us. He laughed confidently. It's a good idea, isn't it? Unitas gave it a few moments' thought. That could certainly work, he said, a smile spreading across his face. During the rest of the journey, they discussed the fine details. Dragatu decided if he was going to do this, he wanted to oversee the entire workforce, with Unitas in charge of the technical specifications. He also realized he would need a group of people to oversee the workers, and they would report to him. This group would be similar to what large hunting parties did. Often hunters would take it in turns to be the Hanora. The Hanora's job was to watch for wild animals while the others slept, or scout ahead during the day to look for tracks. Dragatu would adapt this, and the Hanora would also make sure everyone worked hard. Once home, they put aside concerns about age and began telling people about the project. Word spread quickly, and full plans were written up for all the people to see. Excitement thrummed through the nation at the thought of having ample water for everyone, especially the poor. There were some doubts about the dangers of the desert and hills, but fears were calmed by the fact that such a large group would be travelling. 22nd day of the 4th month, 697th year. In the week that followed, Dragatu instructed those he selected to be Hanora. These were mostly his friends and those he knew from the surrounding area. He explained their job was to work hard, motivate others, and to make sure water and food were distributed fairly. Eunyalus and Finon went amongst the poorer people to find the majority of the workers. With the compensation of water, promise of food, and 2 weeks' worth of pre-work supplies, they contracted 1,500 workers. The goal was to leave as soon as possible. They knew the sooner this project was complete, the sooner lives would be benefited and saved. 8th day of the 5th month, 697th year. Eunyalus walked into the bedroom. "I have something to show you," he said to Dragatu, and without waiting for an answer, he turned and walked out. Dragatu blinked in confusion, then rolled off his bed and followed curiously. They walked side by side through the streets and finally reached the fields, approaching a large tree southwest of the reservoir. It stood alone, and Dragatu recognized it by the white flowers around it. As they got closer, Dragatu saw something very strange. "What's that?" he asked. "A scale model." They reached the model, and Dragatu was amazed at the detail of the hills and small replica of the project. It was about waist height and made of wood, baked clay, straw, and mud. Eunyalus didn't say anything and drew out a skin for drinking water. He looked at it, then at Dragatu, and offered it to him. "Can you add the water to the water source, and we'll see if it works?" Dragatu could sense Eunyalus' nerves as he took the skin, unstopped it, and poured the water into the replica of the lake. The water filled it, and Eunyalus blew on the wood and straw replica wind catcher. The water went up and began trickling along the small wooden channels. They both blew the smaller wind catchers, and the water made its way up the hill to the pool. Once at the top, the water trickled down to the pool at the bottom. As the pool began to fill, Dragatu spoke in a relieved and awed voice. "It works." "Of course it does," Eunyalus replied, a controlled but smug smile forming on his face. Dragatu gave a little laugh. "So everything is ready to go?" "It's only a replica, it doesn't mean too much, but yes," Eunyalus affirmed. "Excellent. We will make Father proud." Eunyalus nodded. "We'll set off tomorrow as planned." Eunyalus nodded again. "Well done, brother. I'll see you later," Dragatu said, aware that Eunyalus didn't want to talk. He walked off to finish packing, leaving Eunyalus alone. 9th day of the 5th month, 697th year. The host had gathered at the edge of the nation, and Dragatu scanned the crowds of people. He felt a lump form in his throat. His mother's eyes locked onto his own, and she smiled. He recalled their stubborn argument just a few hours before. He had wanted her to stay and be safe, but she had declared firmly that she would be accompanying her sons on this momentous occasion. It was only then that he truly recognized the strength in his mother, and it was humbling. He had lost his father, but she had lost her best friend, her lover, and her husband. As the recollection faded, he nodded to her gently and broke eye contact. Rion handed him a list of all those coming. There were almost 2,000 people ready to make the long and dangerous journey. Dragatu was apprehensive about the optimism that was buzzing through the people. He knew it wouldn't take long for them to see that this wasn't going to be an easy stroll across a child's sandpit. He told the Honora to be cautious of the morale dipping very quickly, telling them to motivate people with thoughts of how the project would help them and benefit future generations. Dragatu continued to watch the people as they waited to begin the journey. He recognized Farmer Heth, who had set his shoulder, brushing his old shire horse, Genopa. Dragatu twisted and flexed his left arm with the memory and frowned at the horse. Animals and supply carts would slow them down. They were a necessity, especially with all the precious barrels of water they had needed to take, but a hindrance to their pace. At just past high sun, Dragatu gave the order for those at the front to start moving north. The Honora took up their positions, spread out along the group, and Dragatu waited until the last person passed him. He smiled inside, knowing that this was helping the people, and continued to achieve many of his goals in his journal. Gradually he made his way to the front, stopping to talk to his friends and those who told him how excited they were. It took several hours, but eventually he reached Eunyalus, Finon, and Helana. The family walked as one, unified by their courage and desire to honor the man they had lost.